Happy Sabbath, church family. Pray you all had a blessed week. Today we're going to continue on the theme of optimizing our brain health. And so today's health nugget is part 2 on the series of wheat that I presented a few weeks ago. So one whole grain that is actually causing a lot of confusion in our world today is hybridized whole grain wheat. In fact, I myself was confused as well, but not anymore as I researched the history and as well as spirit of prophecy and recently made the changes myself. Now, I knew about the hybridized wheat, but not about hybridized whole grain wheat. And you would think it's pretty self-explanatory, but with all the media speaking about the benefits of whole grain, we kind of forget that it's hybridized wheat. So now some of you may be thinking, Thea, what is wrong with whole wheat? Didn't you say we need to eat grains that are whole and not refined? And yes, that is correct. And that eating whole grains is definitely very important. And there are benefits of whole grain wheat, but there are more negatives and disadvantages and health consequences when one actually consumes hybridized whole wheat. And we will talk about that later on. But first, I want to share you a beautiful promise that we can claim. And it says, "A scoffer seeks wisdom and does not find it, but knowledge is easy to him who understands." This is from Proverbs 14:26. And so in order to understand about wheat, we need to go always back to the history. And we can see that there is nothing new under the sun. In part 1, we talked about the original wheat called einkorn, and that was from the Bible, and one of the industrialization revolution, which was in the 1950s, where hybridized wheat came to be. And actually, the first revolution prior to that was in the 1870s, which was in milling. And so you can see here the modern steel rollers that were invented. So compared to the old stone methods, it was definitely more fast and efficient. So instead of just mashing, the kernels together, with this new invention, one could separate the different parts of the kernel, of the grain, and so allowing the purest and finest of white flour to be easily produced at a cheap cost. So every class of person in rapidly growing cities could now afford fancy flour. And obviously people rejoice for this modern progress, and this flour became so popular, shipped everywhere, and it's stored better as well. In fact, it kept almost indefinitely. Pest problems were eliminated because the pests didn't want it. And of course, we now know the reason it keeps so well is that it has been stripped of its vital nutrients. And the bugs and the rodents knew this way before we did. And so this is the refined flour we see today. You can see where the benefits are and where it has been stripped away from. You can see how vastly different the colors are as well when the fiber has been stripped away from the brown towards the white. And so God actually spoke through Ellen White about wheat and that something bad was going to happen. So she started to counsel us about refined flours and its impact on health. And she wrote this in the 1860s, 10 years prior to the milling revolution. And it says there, "Fine flour cannot impart to the system the nourishment that you'll find in the unbolted wheat bread." Unbolted means whole. And the common use of bolted wheat bread cannot keep the system in a healthy condition. Fine flour bread is lacking in nutritive elements to be found in bread made from the whole wheat, and it is a frequent cause of constipation and other unhealthful conditions. And that's from the Ministry of Healing. In 90 to 100 years prior to that as well, being the wheat being hybridized, she wrote a statement about how Satan has tampered with some of the foods that God has created for us, which was good, and wheat was mentioned there. I don't know about you, but that is actually very thought-sobering. But isn't God so merciful and loving and gracious that he gave us this counsel way before it happened? And so what actually happens when we consume hybridized whole grain wheat? As you can see there, hybridized wheat and hybridized whole grain wheat, and when we ingest it, it comes into our digestive system, and it's not probably digested because of the certain compounds. The protein structure is so complex now, and it goes into our brain. It goes through the blood-brain barrier, and these peptides is called glutamorphine. And these glutamorphines actually activate the inbuilt opiate receptors in our brain. And so this actually explains why when we do eat wheat, we feel really happy. It's that euphoric feeling and the addiction feelings as well. Personally, for myself, I know that when I did eat wheat before, I would come back later on as well wanting more, say, bread or cookies or something like that, and it causes a lot of inflammation in our system and as well in our brain, and hence as well the brain fog. And then this actually reduces our ability to reason and make wise decisions, and as well as resist temptation. And so this gluten actually causes that morphine-like response in our body. So if gluten can cause an opiate-like reaction, you can see, like again, I said, how addictive it can become. And as well as the clouded mental functioning, insomnia, diarrhea, inflammation in the stomach line. These are all the repercussions that happen when one ingests gluten. And several studies had been shown the link between mental illness and gluten from the hybridized wheat, and also the cause of depression, some of the causes of depression, anxiety, and bipolar. And so how do we move forward from here? What are the whole grains that I can eat, or that we can eat, without getting the side effects of hybridized refined wheat or whole grain? And so you can see here we've got the einkorn, the oats that I mentioned about a few weeks ago, quinoa, brown rice, barley, buckwheat, all of these good whole grain that God has created for us in the beginning. And so, praise God that these have not been tampered with, and it will help us replace hybridized wheat and also gluten-free. And so you can still make amazing breads with these whole grains. For those that know Walter Veith, he actually has a wonderful gluten-free bread recipe on YouTube using these combinations of grains. And for those who love their rotis, like my husband and I, you can even make quinoa rotis. And so here are the benefits of whole grains. And you can see there, reducing the risk of some heart disease, type 2 diabetes, improved digestive health, achieve weight control. These are all the amazing benefits that we can have when one consumes whole grains. And so, with God, anything is possible. We just need to have a willing heart and an open mind to learn. And one thing that we can do is to start looking at the labels that we are eating. And like I mentioned in part 1, my prayer is that with the light that we have been given now, that you spend time with God and ask Him what He wants you to do personally. He winks at our ignorance, and now we can move forward and ask for His help and strength to follow His counsel. Because, our sole motivation is that we love Him and that we want to glorify Him and make wise decisions. It's not easy, and I do acknowledge that it is hard, especially when we've been doing it for years. But this Bible promises that we are of God, little children, and have overcome them, because greater is He that is in you than he that is in the world. And you can see, again, the benefits of replacing wheat. Many of us are experiencing health problems that have been there for quite a long time. Despite our health efforts, we just need to really find the cause of why this is happening, then treating the symptom. And wheat and other habits may just be the cause. So if there's anyone here that wants to experience these amazing health benefits, please come speak to me or Lindsay after the service or at lunch as well. And so to close, we definitely want to offer you our support. We want to offer you prayer and encouragement, and as well as being an accountability partner. As you know, we talked about the addiction as well. And so withdrawing from wheat comes with withdrawal effects, and a lot of prayer needs to come with that. And we also have the 10-day plant-based challenge for those that are wanting recipes to further your culinary experience as well, and cooking demonstrations as well, which are online with Healing Hearts His Sanctuary. And for those that want 1 to 2 health coaching with me and Lindsay, please come and see us after the service. Thank you and God bless.